I'm Carey Stinson, and my journey through life has been quite an adventure. For over 20 years, I played Barney the Dinosaur on tour and 7 seasons of the hugely popular TV show Barney and Friends. Now my journey is to bring together friends and guests from all over the entertainment world for inspiring and at times amusing behind-the-scenes conversation. I'm Carey Stinson, and this is Purple Roads. Welcome to Purple Roads. My name is Carey Stinson, and I am, as always, thrilled you're here. I'm so excited to have Emma Watkins, one of the Wiggles, from Australia with us today. Emma, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I am great. I'm here in Fort Worth, Texas, and you're in Australia, and I love that we can, through Zoom,
This
be
is
together.
amazing. I think, can you see it in the background? This is Wiggles HQ in the middle
Okay.
of creating a new set. We're crafting. There's a big pixel love heart up there on the wall.
I love it.
And we're getting ready. My dog Darlie has joined us here for the chat too.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
More the merrier. Well, this is very exciting. I worked with the Wiggles a bunch in my early days with Barney. I never, unfortunately, got the chance to work with you, but I am a huge fan, obviously, and I see what they did in America. And obviously, they were big in Australia before they came to America, and then they became big everywhere. Why don't we start with what's it like being a Wiggle?
It's pretty amazing. I mean, I guess the way that the Wiggles had formed and then transformed into this phenomenon around the world, I guess they never really expected that they would be as popular as they were. And really, America for them became their second home. They were touring there 3 times a year. And that was such a big market for them. And, you know, America was like family for their touring family, especially. And now in Australia, it's almost bigger than it's ever been. It's been like a rebirth of the Wiggles, and truly, I never expected that I would ever be doing this. And I come from a really big dance background, so I never really learnt to sing properly or had ever focused on it. And so now, sometimes when people think that you know, I'm a singer, that quite surprises me. But I'm thrilled to be here, and I think I always thought that I would pursue dance and be in a dance company, you know, wherever that was in the world. And now to be a Wiggle, I actually couldn't imagine myself doing anything more. So I'm very grateful to have landed in this part of the world and in this particular role. And yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
You know, it's a fun part about kids entertainment. Each week I interview people, and they end up in children's entertainment, but it's not usually where they started or where their plan was. I was a musician. Next thing I know, I end up in a purple dinosaur costume. And so, I'm fascinated by your dance background. I am not a dancer at all, but my mom was a trained dancer.
Right.
And so when I was reading all about where you started with ballet and all the places you went with dance, why don't we start out, or why don't we go to your dance background and where all that's just taken you?
It's kind of bizarre because I had seen dancing for the first time as a child watching the Wiggles. And
Really?
I was very fascinated by the Irish dancing. I don't know if it's because of my hair and the particularly Irish complexion, but I think I was really drawn to the costumes and the jumping around and all the rest of it. And apparently I'd asked my mum, and I think I was about 4 at the time, oh, I'd like to do that. So mum took me to enroll into an Irish school, and the teacher at the time thought that I was too young. And at that time, you know, starting before 4 was a bit, it just wasn't really done. You know, children started dance at 5, 6, 7.
Right.
And so the Irish dancing teacher at that time suggested I start ballet. So I did ballet for a year, and then when I was 5, I started Irish dancing, just like I'd seen on the Wiggles. And that's how that journey started for me. But I'm interested, as you said, you're a musician, what instrument do you play?
I was a piano player.
Piano. Amazing.
I was a piano player, and that's what got me. I heard about Barney, and they said, you know, you're in the industry. You should go talk to Sloan Coleman, who had a big background with the Wiggles as well. Sloan was involved with both of us, and my music background is kind of what helped me get into the costume, because I wasn't a dancer, but I had rhythm. I understood rhythm through music.
And essentially, Barney did a lot of movement, a lot of dance.
Yes.
I'm surprised that you say that, but I actually think Barney was very physical, and it's such a big costume.
Oh, he was, and I could dance because of my mother.
Mm.
It's a story I've told before, but the short of it is, they said, "Can you dance?" And I said, "Sure, I can." Because when you're trying to get a job, you tell them, "Yeah, I can do anything." Right? You understand what I'm saying? You probably said you could sing.
I mean, interestingly, at the time, and you're exactly right. If you had been in a performing arts school or a performing arts course, I was at full time during the time that I auditioned for the Wiggles, and most of what they say is, say that you've done everything, even if you haven't, and then after the audition, go and do it, go and learn it, go and figure out what the skill is. And when it was in this room at the time. I'd seen the audition for the Wiggles company to be a fairy. And at the time, I had very short blonde hair. I was born blonde, white blonde hair, very fairy-esque, very curly. And so I thought, fairy, that'll be fine. And we had to learn a ballet piece from a video before we got there on the Monday. And to me, I thought that's a really easy audition. And I wasn't too anxious about the audition. I think auditions leading up to it, and I tried every musical, Cats, Wicked, Sound of Music, everything, which I did quite well at. But when I got to the singing, I was always told that my singing wasn't up to it. So I got in here to audition. There was about 50 girls, and we were being a ballet dancing fairy. And right at the end, they said, "Who would like to sing this number as well as dance?" And to be honest, it was a full ballet number, everything, jumping, the splits, like honestly, everything. I thought, that is crazy. And for the first time, the first audition, I didn't actually say anything. And I just was one of those people that didn't put my hand up to sing. 4 out of the 50 girls said that they would sing. And I thought, that is very brave. So I didn't sing at that audition. However, because I had done Irish dancing and somebody on the panel had recognized me from a competition, they said, "Don't you do Irish dancing?" I said, yeah. And they're like, "Oh, we do Irish dancing here at the Wiggles. Can you give us a step?" And so all these people had done all their acrobatic tricks, which I have no skill. I did a bit of an Irish dance around the floor, and next week I'd got the job. So very interesting that I agree. That's definitely what you're meant to be doing at an audition. And I just didn't even go there. It was only till about a year later that I was in as part of the Wiggle show, and I was there as a dancer, and because of my training in film editing, I was there to create
Oh,
footage
okay.
for them. And so it was only then that Anthony asked me to wear a microphone and start narrating the ballet on stage for Dorothy the Dinosaur with the original Wiggles. And I think that was my first ever go at having a microphone. I'd never worn a microphone or ever heard my voice back on a speaker. And when I was asked to be a Wiggle, I hadn't really sung for Anthony prior to that time. And I think he was just as worried as I was. But I think the beauty about children's entertainment, and something that I did learn, especially through Simon and Lockie, the new Red and Purple Wiggle, who have a plethora of singing training and are so music and singing is a real part of their personality. I learned so much from them. And once I could get my head away from listening to myself and using my voice as a story time element, then I started to relax. But I admit, if I hear my voice on the first couple of albums, it's nowhere like it is now. And I think I
Sure.
was very worried, and I tried to be a singer very early on. And then now, since that I've relaxed away from that, I can actually listen to my voice back now. And it's more about the story and translating that to children.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't, when I was first getting those dance moves down, I was a nervous wreck, doing 360s and stuff like that. And I mean, I was taught by my mother, who was a trained dancer. So she taught me the technical part of it, but it definitely took time. And I think it sounds like we both did the same thing, which is you rely on your strengths.
Yeah, just get in there. Smile a lot.
Right.
I mean, I was like, I'll just smile and do some ballet in the background and some Irish just to get by.
Sure.
I was learning on the go. I'd never sung for an audience. I'd never used a microphone, never been in a recording studio. I mean, I cried for multiple weeks because I couldn't understand why my voice sounded like that in the headphones. And I was very anxious, very anxious.
So what was it like the first time you heard your voice on that mic?
It wasn't good. It wasn't good. I just couldn't. I mean, I knew what it was like to sing or to hold a
Sure.
tune, but I was very worried. And I can hear myself now on that first, the first album. It was just really hard also because I don't have a big range. I don't have a big singing range at all. And so we would be, most of the time at the beginning, we would be re-singing or re-instrumentalizing. Oh, that's not even a word. Instrumentalizing the original Wiggle
There you
songs.
go.
They were in boy keys as well. So
Okay.
that was already a problem. So it was already not in my range. And then we would have to try and find lines that it might work. Or the boys would sing and then I'd be like, beauty, mate. And I'd just say a phrase that was spoken. And honestly, it was hard to find where I was able to sit. But then once we started writing new songs and, Lockie was like, let's write something in your key. Let's find something. And because he's an amazing pianist, he was like, right, let's transpose it and let's move it here. And that made all the world of difference. And now, it's, okay, Emma, where can we, if this song is going to be predominantly using, where can we put it? And it's so different to how it was initially.
So on that note, what was it like or being the first female Wiggle? Was there challenges with that? Did you see it as a big deal? And did the media, I mean, how did that all go down?
When I'll try and summarize it, but
Sure.
when Anthony asked me, and when he asked the three of us, that was also strange. I think people had thought there was an audition process, but there was no audition. I was being auditioned while I was in the show and I didn't know about it. So I guess he was looking for qualities that he could see that would, softly spoken, engaging with children, warm personality vibe. And so I guess that's why the singing aspect never really came up as an issue.
Sure.
And so I think the issue was at that time, it never occurred to me about the singing. That was fine. I wasn't even too worried about being a girl. It didn't occur to me that would ever be an issue. And then when everybody found out, most of the complaints had come from people my age complaining that there was a girl replacing their childhood dream. And I could relate because I knew I'm an original Wiggles fan. The Wiggles are 30 next year and I'm 30. So I'm the exact generation of the original Wiggles. And I then had to think about what that would feel like to be them and how I would think, if a group that I loved was replacing, with a whole new group.
Right.
But in a way, we were the Wiggles for that generation. And so those children never knew the original Wiggles. And that's how it's been since we have become this new incarnation of the Wiggles. And so it took maybe 2 or 3 years for everybody to relax.
Yeah.
And then once they'd come to see the show, they're like, oh, it's the same music, but it sounds a bit different. There's a girl, there's lots of dancing now, there's harmonies, there's things that, we've added on top of the original music to continue that, the legend of the Wiggles music. And it wasn't to try and replace or to be karaoke Wiggles, and we weren't going to have the same personalities or characteristics. And Anthony was really strong about bringing our interests as part of our characters to the show. And while Jeff, the original Purple Wiggle, and Lockie both play piano and they both wear purple, and that was like a similar theme. Lockie has so many other personalities that, and Jeff has different personalities. And so it was never about, becoming them or anything. And I think that's a real strength in how we transition through, and that we were able to bring our own interests. And I think weirdly, being a Wiggle or, in this world and having your own name as your character, it's not like dressing up as a witch or a princess, or it's creating that role in a musical. You actually get to be yourself, which is so nice. I never did drama, so if I was to actually play a role, I would be terrible. I'm happy that I get to be, Emma, and that I bring my love of dance and, my love of languages and playing the drums to the character of Emma Wiggle, which is me anyway.
Well, I talk about this a lot on this show. You can't fake out kids, right? You can't. You either have to be into this, you have to understand it, you have to love it, be passionate. Kids understand the authenticity. And I really think that's ultimately what it is. And you can get away with not being the greatest dancer or, your voice not being completely there, right? But if you love what you're doing and the kids see it, I think you're going to be fine,
And I think,
as we found out.
yeah, I think that's what Anthony must have been looking for during the time. And they obviously wanted it to be an organic combination of people rather than picking people everywhere and then making them have some sort of, relationship. Because Simon and Lockie and I were already touring together and we were already friends, organically the group was already there.
Right.
And so I think that's a real testament to the originals for thinking about that and the way that the group would, because we have to spend every single day together.
Right.
And we love that. We spend more time together than with our own family. And for us to already have been touring for a few years already together, then we're already used to it. That aspect of it isn't an issue. We know what touring's like. We know how hard it is. We know that we've got to do 4 shows a day. We're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner with each other, and we're traveling all the time. And so that aspect was put aside. I meant to say before about I forgot. I go in tangents. I'm sorry, but
it's all good.
this is why this time limit is great.
Yeah, no, this is fun because we just go wherever it goes.
When I was considered the girl Wiggle, Anthony asked me what I wanted to wear, and traditionally and stylistically, the boys always wore pants and a shirt, which in Australia we call a skivvy, but we know that means very different situations over in North America. But yeah, like a high turtleneck. I don't know why I'm wearing this today, but I'm the black Wiggle today. But as soon as he asked me, I said to him, I don't wear pants. And he started laughing. He's like, I know, that's why I'm asking you, because I don't even own a pair of jeans. I've only worn a pair of jeans once. I don't own any pants. I always wear a skirt or a dress or something of that fashion. And so it didn't feel right for me to wear that costume. And so initially we thought about a dress. And then anyway, as it turned out, it was the shirt and the skirt that had the stripes down the side to match the boys. So if we turned to the side, we would all still have stripes. Even though my initial design was to have the stripes around the bottom of the skirt, like an embroidered layer. So, that's probably what a skirt would be like. But now we turn to the side, we all look the same, which is great.
Yeah.
But I got so much flack and criticism for wearing a skirt. It just felt really confusing for me because I thought, why am I having to defend what I wear? And that's what I would wear normally. That's what I would comfortably wear. If I was to wear pants, I wouldn't feel like myself. And so then it became a gender stereotype. Why are you wearing a dress? Why are you wearing a bow? I mean, weirdly, I don't have something in my hair today, but before I was a Wiggle, I always had a bow or a headscarf or, a bandana or something. And so that's how the bow, came about. I always had something in my hair. And so then it was, at the beginning, I felt like I was trying to defend just being me. And then it became a gender issue. People were like, why are you stereotyping boys and girls? We actually wasn't that at all. It was just so that I could wear something that I felt comfortable in and that I could dance in. And because I was a dancer, I said to Andrew, what if it was like a tutu or it's like a skirt? And then that's why the petticoat came in, and I have this big yellow kind of frou-frou skirt, so that when I turn, it's still considered something dancey, and it's still conservative enough to be appropriate for all different cultures. So it had so many different levels, but it was perceived so differently. But
I've got to think that girls appreciated it, though. I bet there's got to be a positive side to this as well.
Exactly. And I think that, with the Wiggles forever and ever, there's been a huge concept of dressing up and dress ups in general. And so, I think people now, and especially parents, they're like, I wish I had a girl wiggle when I was growing up. And so
Right.
then there's that whole argument as well. And so, at the time when I was watching the Wiggles, the only female representative was Dorothy, and she's a dinosaur.
Right.
So she did an amazing job. Let's just say, Dorothy was a highlight for me. I was so inspired by watching a dinosaur dance, the same with Barney.
Sure.
But I think now to be able to have a female representative in the group has been a great thing. Anthony's always said he wished he'd done it earlier. It just was a group of mates.
Right.
And so if it was meant to be a planned, multicultural, multi-gender kind of group, there would have been thought about that. But it
Sure.
actually was a group of friends at university.
Right.
And in the next incarnation, Anthony felt that that feature of a friendship amongst a group was such an important bond. And we know that parents have loved the banter and the chat between the guys as a parent level. The reason why the Wiggles, I think, are so engaging for parents is that there's a level of discussion and essentially jokes on the parent level, and they're laughing. Right. But our main priority is the children, and I think Anthony wanted to be able to replicate that with another group of friends, and so that friendship was a big reason why the group was formed again in that way.
Well, and we all learned, with Barney, when we first started, Barney was basically blue and became a purple dinosaur later. And Baby Bop was actually tall. And then they realized, not many people know it, but Baby Bop was actually tall. And then they realized they had new auditions and brought in a little person. And that put Baby Bop at the same level as the kids.
Children.
And of course, you brought a female in too. So I think all of these shows, as we go, we're always growing and listening to our audiences, right? And we figure out, what works and doesn't work. Barney and the Wiggles have something obviously very in common, which is music and dance.
Yeah.
Those songs and those movements, for us, Mr. Knickerbocker, hot potato for you two, for you guys and girls. It was an amazing, I toured for 5 years, so I completely understand the touring experience. And it's the most unbelievable thing to be performing a number like that, and everyone in the arena is doing it with you. What's that experience been like for you, performing these songs that are so well known by the audience and them participating with it?
I think that, that was a sense of angst joining the show when we first joined. That was one of the biggest worries for Simon and Lockie and I, is that we were already joining a group that was hugely successful, and it was having to step into someone's shoes in a way to continue the songs and make sure people were coming along for the ride and enjoying it too.
Sure.
And so we didn't want to disappoint anybody, but we also wanted to join in and have fun at the same time. And I think that there was two sides. It was incredibly stressful because we wanted to do a good job, and then on the other side, it's unbelievable. I mean, when you're in an auditorium and there's thousands of people there and they're all singing the same song, what a lovely experience to be part of. And I guess for us initially, we were singing music that was created by the originals. So, I felt like I was participating too. I mean, I might have been there with the microphone on, but essentially I'm part of the sing-along as well.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, and I think now being able to create our own songs, and now the audience of today singing the songs that we've created, it has a whole new meaning. And now I can start to understand how amazing that power of music is, and something that will unify a whole audience together to sing along with. So it's definitely something that you just wouldn't imagine. And if I was part of a dance company, that wouldn't be happening. So I'm extremely fortunate to experience that, because that's a beautiful moment. It's
incredible. It is absolutely incredible. It's hard to explain what it's like. What is the balance like for you, staying true to the songs that that the guys started out with, and then bringing in new material that you're doing?
I guess we are so lucky that we've got a back catalogue of songs of about 1,000. And so, there's some great wiggly songs that the guys wrote 30 years ago, 25 years ago, and all of the themes for children still apply today. And so, I guess children are essentially the same over
Okay.
the last few decades. It's just that technology has changed, and the challenges for parents having to deal with how children can view that technology is different, and it provides challenges where screen time is increased. You still wanted to encourage active living and healthy habits, and making sure that children are up and moving, whether that's dancing or just playing sport or just moving around in the lounge room. So I think we've we're lucky to be able to listen to some of the original stuff and then reinvent it and remake it and bring it to the audience of today and put our vocals on it. But usually we play everything again, redo the tracks, because some of those tracks are still on tape. They're not even digital. So we
Yeah.
would have to play it again anyway. And I think that's been really nice for us to learn the original songs. But then as things come up, we like to feel that we're a band of great responsiveness, and we want to be very nimble, and we want to act for things that are essentially music for today. And so even time periods just like now with coronavirus, it's really important that we were able to respond in the moment and create education and helpful music and education for families to deal during this time.
Yeah, this has really been a crazy time. I think it really, especially for children. I don't know that they completely can grasp everything that's going on with this. What was your approach in helping kind of educate? Because you want them to understand what's going on, but only so much, right? They don't need to know every aspect of it, right? I mean,
children know. They sense that there's something happening.
No, they do, but I think there's a level of it. For example, I've got a 13 and a 15-year-old, and the 13-year-old today they graduated, and they drove through as all the teachers applauded them, which was the coolest thing. But it's obviously very, very different, and for them to understand, they're the first group of kids that have dealt with this, and it's just a fascinating how we're dealing with the kids and them understanding and seeing, and because they're at home with their parents, and they're doing school like we're doing right here through this computer. So I'm really interested, because I know you guys jumped on this very quickly. What approach did you take?
I guess for us, it came out of so many messages of fear from parents. Like, how do I tell my children what's happening?
Sure.
What do we tell them? What are the phrases that we explain? How can we illustrate it? And then for us, as adults, it's already confusing for us. The whole concept of social distancing is already very confusing. And I guess for us, the day that we found out, we were on our first day of the tour, which essentially is meant to be a 10-month tour. Wow. So we'd finished the first show, we'd seen the news in the middle, and we were like, oh, okay, we don't know what's going on. Let's do the next show and then decide. So right. We completed the second show, and then by the end of the second show, we thought, no, let's postpone the tour until we can be clear on, what's right, what's safe for everybody, what are the new rules. And by the next day, Australia was in lockdown. So it was a very quick wrap up, let's just say, for us. And the four of us, because we didn't know what was happening, we decided, because we found out we were all together on the Saturday, we thought, let's meet all together again on the Sunday, the four of us, and decide what we're going to do for the tour. And so it essentially had started about just brainstorming about where we were going to move the tour. Oh, okay, it's March, let's move it to April. And then as the days rolled on, we thought, I don't think this is stopping for a while. And so our heads were like, okay, what if we weren't touring for a period of a month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? What does that look like for the Wiggles? How can we adapt in this time? And then messages started coming from parents, not just about the tour, but, about how do we approach this topic? And for us, this whole phrase of social distancing was on the news every 30 seconds. And, the guidelines, particularly in Australia, were very murky on what does that mean? Can people still go to work, school, daycare? There's different guidelines for different situations.
Well, and
And
it changes daily.
exactly. And I think for parents, that's where the fear is. Am I doing the right thing? Is this a rule for today? Was it yesterday's rule?
Right.
What's
Yeah.
the main theme here about social distancing? And so we started to look at how can we demonstrate in a song for parents right now. We kind of set ourselves a challenge. Let's write a song today. Let's film it. Let's get it out. Let's put it on YouTube. It'll be global so that there's no restriction on who sees it. Let's figure out how we can visually describe this. And for children, it was a very different concept than it is for adults. For
Sure.
adults, it's very much about the distance apart. It's like, don't be 1.5 meters away from each other, or in
Right.
feet. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah. We got you.
But for children, they don't understand what measurement is.
Right.
And they also don't need to do that because they're at home. So
Right.
they don't need to social distance from their own parents or the grown-up that's their
Right.
guardian. So for us, we thought, okay, I think it's more about children not being able to see their friends or their cousins or their family or their grandparents. And particularly in a modern world, so many children are minded by their grandparents maybe every week while the parents work.
Right.
And so I think for children not to see their grandparents, they almost felt like they'd done something wrong for that to happen. And so we wanted to make a song that let children know that if you stay home, then you're doing a wonderful thing and that you're helping your grandparents and yourself. And so we wanted to make a positive song to alleviate fears and we demonstrated the movement by turning around in a circle and not touching each other.
Sure.
To get quite a big space here to
Right.
try get away, don't touch each other,
Sure.
and demonstrate that visually, and something that children could do. Okay, if I turn around in a circle and I can't touch anybody, then I'm in my own space, and that's kind of how that started. And we tried to put the song out really quickly. I think it was a turnaround of about a couple of days.
Wow.
And then we'd already had the handwashing song that we wrote with UNICEF last year for Global Handwashing Day. So luckily that was kind of filling in, a kind of very factual entertainment gap with, explaining and visually showing to children how long you had to wash your hands for. And at that time it was 15 seconds. But then as the week started going on, there was new research to say it was 20 seconds. So we quickly got in the studio and redid that, and then added a bit of extra time in there and made the new clip, which we've now got in Australian Sign Language on YouTube as well. And then we realized, just like you were saying with your own children going through graduation, but the idea of birthday parties started to become the next issue. And, parents were like, how does my child still understand that they're still having a party, but their friends can't come over? And, what do we do about that? And a lot of children, we'd heard that they were questioning how they were going to turn 3, like if they were still going to turn 3. Oh, your heart breaks. How sweet. I mean, that's the kind of level of thinking at this time.
Right.
That's the age that, we want to make sure that they feel okay and that they feel safe, and that, the world is not ending, but, there are challenges at this time. So we made a new song called Digital Party, which was a hoot for us to make. And, we had, I was there pretending to be the party host, and Anthony drives by on a tiny little fire engine, and Lockie actually drops a present off by horse. So we, we had a great time creating the party song to show children that the party could be done through video chat. And
Sure.
the great thing is for us, we can't see, we wanted to demonstrate exactly how it is for children, and it is the same for us. We haven't been able to see our good friend Captain Feathersword, Paddy, who you met, years
Yes.
ago.
Oh, yes.
And he lives in Brisbane, which is in a different state here, which we
Okay.
he can't travel to us at the moment. So we had Paddy on FaceTime, and
Okay.
in the video I have Paddy and we're waving to him, and then I turn around and show the camera Paddy having a party in his own home. So for us it's a very realistic sense of social distancing, even from us here at Wiggles HQ, and we wanted to make sure children could see that as well.
You know, I love through this time the creativity that people have found. I think being able to adapt pretty quick and understand, okay, this is what's happening, and being creative like that, I absolutely love it. You know, I've seen it with musicians that are used to, you know, just like you, used to being on stage all the time, and now you can't be on stage and you can't have that interaction with your audience.
Yeah.
But you adapt and you
Yeah.
do something that's fun, and to explain to kids, this is not just because you're being away from someone doesn't mean you don't love them or you're in trouble or anything of that nature.
And I think, in a sense, there is no option but to be creative at this time. There is no way that we would be able to connect with our audience if we didn't, you know, have a bit of a think about how we can still connect with families in different parts of the world. And so for us, because we were about to tour, and we had New Zealand on the list, and Canada and America and the UK and Ireland. And so for us, we wanted to make sure that we could still provide entertainment for these regions, and in a sense have a connection with children in countries that we weren't even going to be able to physically tour to this year. And so apart from doing the social distancing song and the digital party song, we thought, okay, what can we do? What can we film at this time? And I think we're very lucky in the sense that we have a studio and that we're able to create content, even though we don't have any cast or crew here.
Right.
It's very quiet. It's very, very quiet. We have one camera person and one sound person, and so the six of us have been isolating together for the last 8 weeks.
Sure.
And we decided that since we were going on tour, we thought maybe what we should do is actually film a mini show. So we filmed a little set list, which was about 30 minutes, and we had our headset microphones on that we would have worn on the stage, and we filmed it here in the studio, and we put together this little show. Then we thought, actually, there's quite a few, sets of songs that might be versions of what we would do on the tour over the next couple of months anyway. So we ended up filming 6 little concerts, 6 30-minute sets, and we only filmed them through once. So we let the mistakes happen. We let the laughter happen. Anthony throws Lockie in the deep end and gives him spontaneous challenges. Lockie is crying so much because he's laughing, he can't talk. And so all that natural reaction and response that we would normally have on the tour, we've left on film. And we've now released it on iTunes for Australia, UK, Canada, and America now. And it's like a little mini series, a 6-part mini series, and we've only just finished filming it. So we thought that this would be a way to still provide some entertainment for families during this time. So I'm actually so excited for you to see it, because the first one, and like the first day of tour, is pretty Wiggles as you expect.
Sure.
Very nursery rhyme preschool set. And then as episode 3 and 4 start, Lockie is laughing, he's on the floor, Anthony's making up something about guitars, and it just gets funnier as the episodes go on. So I'm truly really excited about this little mini series, just to give families something to laugh at. We've had 2 episodes released already, and the next 4 they release every 2 weeks. So it's been a real joy to create that content and have the spontaneity and remain in the edit. I think is quite nice.
We'll put links out at the end of this show so that people can get to check these out. I think that's fabulous, and I think that's what's so important. And I think we're seeing this a lot with performers.
Yeah.
Is people are now kind of getting to see the behind the scenes. Like I love the set, but right, I love that because that's really what it is. I mean, that's what it is. Our set on Barney was the same thing.
Yeah.
When you're doing the show, you don't see that, but I think people love to see that. And I think it's great to see the creative mind work, right?
Yeah.
When Anthony's joking about guitars or whatever that may be, I think people love to see that insight.
Yeah. And that's what they see on the show.
Right.
It made sense for us. We're like, why shouldn't we film this? It would be great to capture this kind of spontaneous element. And I truly think that that's why the Wiggles have been going for so long too, because Anthony has created so much fun on stage that the Wiggles are laughing because we don't know what's happening. We don't have any scripts most of the time. It's a general reaction to each other and how we challenge each other on stage. And you can see that sense of fun has always been a part of Anthony, and that he still, taps into that. And that's how he finds the show fun for himself, which then we start laughing, and then the parents start laughing. And then, it's kind of this cyclical effect. And so there's no reason why we shouldn't film this kind of content and put it out as we normally would. So I'm glad that we were able to put it out, because generally in terms of distribution, it takes so long for something to be filmed and edited, and it's got to go onto a TV platform, and it just takes a lot longer lead time. But essentially that kind of footage is very linear, and you're making 26 episodes of something
Right.
that you've created and you've specially worked on, and that in itself has a home. But what we wanted to do is react quickly. And so for us, digital technology, digital downloads, social media is kind of where our headspace is at the moment. And it's something that the Wiggles have never done. So, we're learning about the technology at the same time that everybody else is.
Yeah.
And we're trying everything: YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, Zoom. We've had
Right.
Zoom parties, Instagram parties. We're trying it all. We're very open and flexible to try lots of different opportunities. And I think this time of COVID-19 has allowed us to step back and look at how we distribute to countries that we wouldn't be able to physically go to right now. So I think that's been incredibly important for us.
Well, and I promise you, it's also incredibly important for the fans.
Yes.
They're still connected with you, and
Yes.
they see what you're doing. And once again, it gets back to that authenticity. I think they love that. I think that's awesome. So I got the ability to tour and also do the TV show. So I know how I felt about it. Is it touring for you, or is it the TV show? I know there's likes about both and maybe a little dislike. What's those experiences been like? And do you like the live more, or do you like the TV show? What do you feel with all that?
Great question. And I think, anyone who's been able to experience that live element, I mean, it's magical. And it's what the Wiggles' heart is. Because they were essentially preschool teachers, they're used to being, even if the audience is 15 children, it's that reaction and the two-way kind of communication, which is what's so special. And especially even in a show, if we had 8,000 people, if a child requests a song from the third row, we will definitely play it. That's something that we will always do. It doesn't matter if we're in the middle of hot potato. Stop. This child wants to do the propeller. Let's do the propeller now, even if it was meant to be at the end of the set list. I mean, our set list is more like, I like to call it a wish list. It's never usually the order. It's just the wish list. And the wish list, we'll either do 10% of it or 90% of it. Every show is different. And so that element I think we miss. And like you were saying, I think for our Wiggly fans, not being on tour is as disappointing for them as it is for us. There's definitely a two-way benefit there. But I have the short story is, I was injured when I was in high school, and I ended up teaching myself how to do film editing because I couldn't dance. And then I went to film school, and I love editing. So for me, to be able to film, my brain is very I think about filming in the way that it's edited. So I truly love production, and I do love that element. And I think because of the quick turnover and things that we've been able to do over social media, I've enjoyed it so much. And I think I'm so excited to see that the Wiggles have been able to respond so quickly. And so I personally love this time. And I also think that it's been a time for the group to come together, and it feels like the energy in the group is the way that it was when we first started 8 years ago. And that sense of just trying to figure out, what do the four of us, how do the four of us react with each other, and how do we work together? And I, I'm so grateful for this time, and we've kind of come back to how we first started, which is so nice. But uh, I think because the Wiggles have primarily run on 80% touring and 20% filming, that potentially is not sustainable anymore. So
Right.
we need to balance this up, and we need to look at ways that we can use our production to support the touring and vice versa. And also think about, well, what if we weren't able to tour for 12 months? Which this might look like.
Right.
Can we film, and what do we film, and what is the format, and how do people want to see this content, and what can we do to best support families during this time? And that is where we are. So I'm really enjoying it, and we're learning as we go.
It's fascinating you say that, because the rules have really changed.
Yeah.
And I think it is going to be really interesting to see where people go and what they do. And I think you're seeing a lot of people leading the pack, but other
Yep.
people following and watching to see what everyone does, especially when it comes to touring and live performing.
Yeah.
Another thing that we have in common, and so I'm interested because I get this question all the time. What was it like every time you had to do, for example, with Barney, I Love You or Mr. Knickerbocker, because I probably performed it, 10,000 times, right? And I always say, we'll talk about Knickerbocker. It was awesome every time because the
Mm.
kids, like, you understand the importance of it. So what is it like for you doing Hot Potato for the 50,000th time?
Every time it's brilliant. I think you kind of get that you hear the audience like do a bit of a gasp. Like
Yeah.
it starts, it has the first riff, and Lockie will start to sing heart, and then before he's even sung potato, everyone's like, oh, like oh, yay. And then it just starts. And I think to get that, you only have to hear 4 seconds of the song and everyone goes, oh, yay. Then people start to sing along. And I think, that the power of music to be able to bring everybody together to all know exactly what's about to happen is lovely. That's when you can really test a song's popularity or test a song's connection in the way that people are able to connect to it instantly. And so, yeah, we're how lucky am I to be able to sing that song on behalf of the original Wiggles? I'm very fortunate to, again, I'm part of the sing along. I sing the backing vocals. So it's Lockie sings all the main, and then I'm like, yay! I sing everything that the parents do. And I'm having a ball. The way that the dancing happens, I don't have to think about that. That's already muscle memory for me. So I spend the entire song watching everybody else. And so that's what I love about it. I love being able to flip into that state where you're not really thinking about your movement or anything. That seems to be something that I have in the back of my head that happens for me. My body just moves without me worrying about what leg or what the count is. And so I enjoy myself quite a lot by watching everybody else sing along.
When you got started with became the Wiggle, did you go to the guys and get tips from them? Did you, from each one of them, and kind of, figure out, put this all together?
Yeah, we were lucky. We were very lucky. When we found out it was April, this is the timeline.
Okay.
April, we were told that the guys were retiring at the end of the year, and that this was their final year, and that they were going to promote that the tour across the world, particularly in America, that it was a farewell tour. And so when I found out, I was very upset because I'd only just joined. So I was like, oh, I've joined the best, job I've ever had, and it's over. I know that it's going to be over by the end of the year. And then basically the next day I was asked to be the Wiggle, and I thought, well, that's a bit strange. And then I said to Anthony, so when will people find out? And he's like, they won't know about you guys until the end of the year. And I was like, oh, good. Okay, I've got a whole year to prepare myself, because the first thing I said to him was, I can't sing. He's like, that's okay. You'll have time to prepare. So then in 2 weeks' time from that period, we were told that they were going to announce the retirement in 2 weeks. So a month from there, they were going to announce that the guys were retiring, and that the rest of the year, May to December, was the retirement year. And I was like, okay, great. 2 weeks in, they said, no, actually, what we're going to do is announce you as the new lineup at the same time. And I was like, that's in 2 weeks. And all three of us were like, like, your head's like, what are we going to do? I don't even know what I'm wearing. It was just a big shock.
Right.
We were already on the tour as other roles, wiggly dancers, wiggly musicians, playing suit characters. And so we were already going to be on the tour supporting the original lineup for the farewell tour, which we were so excited about. And so then it was like the 2-week panic, and then it was leaked 3 days early. And so at that time, I was very at one moment of preparing myself was at the hairdresser, because my hair is very blonde. I had half my hair red and half my hair blonde, like a red blonde, because it must have been a bit old. And then my phone was like forever and ever, and I was like, oh, that's really weird, that's bizarre. And I thought, I'll get my hair done 3 days before it happens so that I'm ready. And then during the hair dyeing situation, they're like, the news has come out, you're going to have to come back to the studio. Lockie and I got in the car, raced back. It was I've never heard my phone do that ever, and it's never done it since, thank goodness. But I think we could hear people talking about us on the radio driving back to the office, and it was about a 40-minute drive. It was quite long from the city back to where we are here. And the whole way, I think Lockie and I are both like, oh no, what's going on? And so by the time we got there and our picture was taken, the rest was history. And so from May to December, we were on the road with the originals. And so every single day we would learn something. And what we had is we had little T-shirts that had Wiggles in training on it. So there would be a point of the show where the original Wiggles would go out into the audience and collect roses for Dorothy, Bones for Wags. And then the three of us, the three new Wiggles, we would sing Simon Says, or I can't remember the song at the time. Might have even been Do the Propeller to try and introduce the new music, or I can't even remember. But we had our coloured shirts, but they were T-shirts. They weren't the whole outfit. And that was a way to try and introduce ourselves to children over a long period of time. And I think having that time now, where people knew and where we knew, was the best thing that we could have ever done. It was like a whole apprenticeship in about 7 to 8 months. And if we didn't have that, I think it would have been a lot. We would have felt it in the first year, whereas then we could hit the first year running. And it was really then about, alleviating fears for other people. They were really like, oh, the Wiggles aren't the same. The Wiggles aren't the same. When they came to say, like, oh, it's the same. It's new. It's revamped. So, I think that particular time, and it wasn't just for us, but it was definitely for children, particularly children that are on the spectrum. For them to have to deal with change is very hard. Most children are open to change. Parents are not open to change. That's
Right.
what we've learned. But some children are not open to change either. And so for us to be able to introduce ourselves, daily, weekly, over a period of time, then children felt more comfortable. And so that period was essential. And I'm so glad that I did have the 2-week panic as opposed to the year-long panic in the first year. So I think, whilst I felt very scared initially, I'm grateful that we had the apprenticeship, and the apprenticeship was open to everybody. Everyone could see that we were learning too. We weren't the experts. We were just as new as everybody learning. And I think for people to watch us learning, and people that used to watch us 8 years ago, or if that was their Wiggles, the comments that we hear now, like, oh, I used to watch you in your first year, and you just think, oh no. But we learned so much, and I think our spirit and our energy's always been there. So I'm grateful for that time period that we had.
Are you critical of yourself? Do you go back and watch stuff and go, oh?
I'm a dancer. I'm so critical. And I think it's been amazing. I think ever since we did the Emma series, and it was the sole focus was on me, that was a time for me to go, wow, I can't rely on the boy wiggles. They're not there, and that was very stressful. But I'm so glad it happened because I became a better performer with the group because of doing it. And then I toured as the Emma show for a little bit, and it was very small shows. We did a little bit in Canada and a lot here in Australia, and that improved my performance, I think, and it calmed me down. I needed to stop worrying about myself. The minute that I can stop worrying about myself and think about the experience for the children, it's just so much better. And so that's something that I carry through, particularly today.
Have you, are you always trying to develop Emma, the character, more? And you know, every time you mention Jeff, I think about Wake Up Jeff. You know, I remember that just being such a big deal. Do you try to create things for your character to relate to your audience?
Yeah, definitely. And I think as time goes on, you meet children with different experiences, different backgrounds, and you always try to make sure that that's modeled in the show. You know, the Wiggles have always encouraged a very pro-social environment and encouraging differences and talents and challenges. And so I think, you know, as we meet children and we learn about different experiences, it's really important for us to take that into account and to make sure that our show is as accessible as it possibly can be, but we're still learning too, and there's ways that we can improve that. And I think technology is showing us that maybe that's, you know, a way in which we can make the show more accessible for children who can't access it. It might just be purely because they don't understand English, you know. So how do we change that for them? And you know, we don't want the show to be its own little club. You know, the show has to be open for everybody to watch. You know, no discrimination whatsoever. So that's something that we're always thinking about.
For you personally, I'm interested in the connection you've had with girls and your character. I mean, I've got to think you've inspired them
I think
that you can do this. Not that it doesn't sound like that it was always a boys' club, but
I was a fan.
right. But the guys were obviously very open to having a girl, and then you've seen the importance of it, though.
Yeah, we definitely
Do you
the
feel do you feel a responsibility?
Yeah, and I think Wiggles feel responsible as a role model anyway. And for lots of children, you know, prior to the age of 3, gender's not, it's not, they don't actually know the difference most of the time between a boy or a girl.
Sure.
They don't even themselves as just themselves. Like it's me, it's me. I have my own identity, and it's not
Right.
specifically about gender.
Sure.
So for the very young generation, that pre-literal generation, you know, that age group, it's not important. But then as children get a bit older, and you know, I noticed that most of the ballet is specific, the specific target audience is a little bit older than a Wiggles generation, a Wiggles typical target
Right.
audience. Our audience is really 2 to 5. It's that
Right.
preschool age. Younger love Emma, they love Dorothy, and then older 5 to 8. Like now we're seeing older siblings staying to watch the Wiggles because they're like, oh, it's ballet. Oh, I better get my ballet bar and join in. So I think
Sure.
it's been lovely to open up the target audience in a sense, and keeping siblings that are older or younger. But in some ways, I feel a real sense of connection, and I'm not a mother, but I feel connection to mothers because I receive so much feedback from mothers, and I think because of my past diagnosis with endometriosis, and then I had a surgery, and I think because so many women have experienced that kind of hardship, then they feel that they're connected to me in that way because we've been able to share our lives on social media. And so social media has brought us together on the parent demographic. And so many mums say to me, don't worry, you'll still be able to have children. I had endometriosis and I've got my children. And I think that's so nice that they feel like they would like to support me and encourage me. So I feel like there's a few different pockets that I've been able to be there for, just as a sounding board, or, you know, not as a role model, but as somebody to, you know, look towards. And I would never imagine myself as a role model, but it is, I think being a Wiggle is you are responsible for that concept. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, you absolutely are. I was probably doing Barney for about 6 months when I realized there's a responsibility to this.
Yeah.
I was 23 years old, and so I had to grow up very quickly, and you have to understand that responsibility. And
Yeah.
obviously, as a wiggle, you have to do that as well, because they watch you, and they're watching your moves and what you're doing.
Everything. They don't miss a beat. They know everything about you, particularly the parents. And
Yeah.
so, there is that sense of responsibility. And I think that with the brand, the Wiggles, there comes a reputation. There's an expectation. They know that they're going to get a certain quality, and that it's loyal and it's trusted. And so parents are happy to sit there and watch it because they know what they're going to get. And that's something that we're always trying to make sure that is there in our content.
So, what's your favorite thing about being a wiggle?
I think it's meeting the children. Yeah. And I think we've had the opportunity to visit lots of different hospitals around the world and caring centers. And I think that really makes you realize the power of music being able to uplift not just the children that might be sick, but the family that surrounds them. And I think that's something that will always really be so emotional, and it's part of that responsibility. And when you go there, you realize, if I've seen so many little children, particularly girls, dressed as Emma in an oncology ward. And as soon as you come in and then you start singing, their eyes, just a bit lifted, and you're like, wow, I didn't realize that people were watching me in the hospital. And, that kind of then hits you. You're like, okay, so what I'm doing is very, very important for, the positiveness and sharing positivity to children. And that's the best thing about it.
It's so funny you say that. I'm smiling ear to ear as you say that. I spent a lot of time going to hospital visits as Barney, and that changed my life. Those children, you thinking the first time I went to one, you were thinking that it's going to be a sad experience,
Yeah.
and it's not. I've never seen sadness in a hospital, because the kids are seeing their friend, whether in this case it's Barney, but in this case it's the Wiggles. There's Emma. And
Yeah.
so it's inspiring what you
Yeah.
end up seeing.
For the children, it's a huge positive, and then for the parents, it's particularly sad. And that's where you can't look at the parents, because they are going through so many emotions. They're so emotional about seeing the children happy, but then they're also emotional because it might be the last week how it has, or whatever the circumstance is. And I feel particularly for the parents, when we come to visit. But sometimes, it gives them a relief, and so that's why we go, and that's why we visit the children as much as we possibly can. Obviously, during this time we can't, but we've been trying to do a lot through social media and through Zoom and sending video messages to children, and we have the time to do it, and so that's really good too.
Well, and you can still get to them. You just have to change the way you do it.
Exactly.
I cannot thank you enough for being here today. This has just been so much fun. I found my old Wiggle pass.
Come bring it closer.
Yes, I found my old pass with the guys.
Look at all their hair. When Anthony's doll became and had grey hair, he was particularly upset.
Yeah, what happened? It happens to the best of us. And I found this one as well.
See, look at Paddy, Captain Feathersword then. Look at him then.
So
beautiful memories.
It brought so many wonderful memories going through this. And I love seeing what you're doing and keeping it going. Better than ever is what it looks like.
I'm so thrilled to talk to you from somebody that knew the original generation and had those experiences that I obviously wasn't there for. But it does show that the Wiggles legend keeps on. And look, I'm so happy to have been here, and thank you for.
Well, you have the same passion that those guys have. I see it, and I love it.
Oh, I'm glad.
Is there any way I could get a little hot potato to?
Yes. I'm not the lead singer of Hot Potato, but I will give you my best.
Can you be for this moment?
Absolutely. I can do anything that you like. And my dog will join in, I'm sure.
I love it.
Hot potato, hot potato. Hot potato, hot potato. Hot potato, hot potato. Potato, 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 potato. Woo, wiggy, 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 woo, wiggy, wiggy, wiggy. Give me that, give me that, give me that food. Woo, wiggy, 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 woo, wiggy, wiggy, wiggy. Give me that, give me that.
I don't know how you can't smile listening to that. It's bringing back so many wonderful memories, seeing that and hearing that. Emma, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Stay safe and stay healthy.
You too. You too.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Purple Roads fans. Remember to keep your eyes, ears, and your heart open, and you'll find your Purple Road. We'll see you next week.